Good evening, everyone. This is the November 4th meeting of the East Long Meadow Community Preservation Committee. So roll call, if we want to start from Phil and just name and committee you represent.
Phil Haber, DPW. Bob Dobick.
John Torsia.
Tony Zampicini.
Thomas O'Brien, at-large.
Elizabeth Stoughton, Conservation Commission.
Okay. And at this time, is anybody in the audience recording? Oh, and we also have Ralph Cooley joining us from Historical via Zoom. Is anybody else at this time recording the meeting? Hearing.
I don't see anybody.
Okay. Hearing none. So we'll go next to the review of the October 7th minutes. We do not have any October 7th minutes, so that'll be something that we'll have to approve for the next meeting. So going on to old business, the Bark Park Phase 2 application. So let me just say a few things before we kick the discussion off. So since our last meeting, I have had a lot of public comment come in. I have had the chance to read all the emails that I received, calls, messages in regards to the Bark Park. So while you may not, if somebody emailed me, you may not have gotten a response, I did read all of it. I would have given it to you all, but there were so many emails to forward. I did not want to overload your emails. But they largely contain just people's opinions of their experience with the dog park, and they were pretty substantially positive in their feelings towards the dog park at Heritage Park. So what I'm going to do this evening, we don't usually do this because normally we don't have a lot of the public kind of engaging in these projects, but I'm very happy to see the public really engaging in the process. I think that's extremely important. This is money that, property owners in East Long Meadow, that people who pay, fees related to real estate transactions in the Commonwealth, this is that money and those resources. And these projects are important to people. These affect real people, and this is a betterment of trying to preserve the community. So I'm going to open that up. I want to try to hold public comments, not only for this project, but any project that comes up this evening, down to about 2 minutes or less. That might change depending on how many people are interested in speaking, and not because we don't want to hear what you have to say, just for time sensitive nature. I don't want to hold any of the committee members or the public here at a very late hour. We don't have a substantial amount on the agenda, and that was on purpose because I wanted us to focus on the three applications at hand. So we're going to have two more applications after this. So I would just recommend to the public and to the committee, can make your comments respectful and targeted to the application, and that would be much appreciated. At the end of the day, this is a respectful civil debate over sharing different opinions on the application that's sitting before the committee. So first, I'm going to call up the applicant, Bill, to say a few opening comments on the application, and then I'm going to open it up to the public, and then I'm going to bring it back to the committee for questions and comments. So without further, I believe Bill has entered our Zoom here. Bill, can you hear us? We can see you. Wait, oh, you're muted.
Bill, you're muted.
Bill, can you hear us?
You can hear us.
I got you. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, good. Yeah, just a couple of opening comments. You could set the record straight as far as where we're at and our history a little bit. But thanks for having me here and considering phase two, the phase two improvement of the East Long Meadow Bark Park. As you may know, Phase 2 at the Bark Park is a continuation of the paved walkway around the inside perimeter of the fenced park. Phase 1 was previously approved and completed this summer. It was very well received, especially by those with disabilities such as myself. The Bark Park operates on donations alone from local businesses and great dog owners. We put up $1,000 towards Phase 1 and we'll put in the funds above the $7,500 if approved here. We have fundraisers and some very generous donors. I need to point out that this application is for funding of a paved walkway, not the existence of the Bark Park. That was approved 10 years ago. Now, this is about, neither is it about the management or upkeep of the park. It's been well received by the local community and upkeep has been exemplary, as noted by the many emails from patrons. The project is needed to show Bark Park members and the community that we are using the funds provided to us in a responsible and productive way. We have full support of local businesses, including the Apple Place on Summers Road, Maureen's Sweet Shop at the Rotary, A.W. Brown on Shaker Road, Can You Hear It on Shaker Road, Petco, 99 Restaurant, and Rocky's Hardware, all on North Main Street. We're asking for this funding to help improve the Bark Park and add to the asset of Heritage Park and East Long Meadow. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Mackey, the Dan Reynolds is in the audience and he is a committee member. So we'll just, I think we came in through so we'll invite him in.
Sure. And if he puts his video on, and if Ralph puts his video on, then they'd be.
Ralph, would you be able, Ralph and Dan, would you be able to put your videos on? If you're able to. If you're able to put your video on, that would be helpful. So first, there's some we have some public members in the audience, so I will ask them if they have any public comments, and the floor is yours.
Yes, I do. First of all, I'd like to thank the committee for the.
You know what? I'll have you just sit over there into the microphone, so Zoom. Yeah, so the Zoom listeners can hear what you have to say.
First, I'd like to thank the committee for all the work they do for the betterment of our community here in East Long Meadow. I am a resident, longtime resident. I'm also a volunteer at the Bark Park. The work you do is very much appreciated throughout the community. And I'd like to particularly thank you for your generous help in Phase 1 at the Bark Park. What this is for is the Bark Park, if any of you have not been there, is we have cedar chips put down throughout the Bark Park for our sanitation and for ease of maintenance. This creates some difficulty if you're elderly or if you have difficulty walking. So Phase 1 has enabled elderly people with their dogs to park in the Staples parking lot and enter the Bark Park and then navigate to the small Bark Park side. The Bark Park is divided into two sides, one side for large dogs, one side for small dogs. And so this, having a paved walkway, enables an older person that may have difficulty walking to be able to access that and enjoy it. And in fact, many of them do. I am a volunteer at the Bark Park. I'm there every morning, patrolling with my shovel, making sure it's kept clean, things are in order, and at different times during the day when I can. And I've had nothing but positive comments from people with their dogs that are now glad they're able to access the Bark Park. And by continuing with the paving around the remainder of the park, it's just a perimeter, that would enable them to fully access all parts of the park. But again, thank you very much for all you do. Thank you in particular for the help that you've shown to the East Long Meadow Bark Park. Thank you very much.
Is there anybody else in person here that would like to say any words? Would you be able to go over your microphone?
I'm just one of the people that takes my dog to the Bark Park, and I don't know what I would do without it. My dog, I can't say the words unless I'm taking him there because he's freaking out and he's jumping up and yipping and loves it there. I like it there because of the people that are there. They're nice benches, you walk in. But again, it doesn't hurt to improve things. For instance, what this gentleman was just saying, I've had the knees replaced. There were times when you can't walk really well, and especially with a dog. And it would be so nice to be able to come down and walk around and go to the small dog park because there's no other way to really get there. They're walking over grass and everything. There are a lot of older people. I know a couple of them that won't go anymore because it was difficult for them to get, say, from their car to the small Bark Park. And it's amazing what they do to keep it up. It's so good. And if we didn't have the Bark Park, where would we take our dogs? We'd be walking on the street. People, I mean, I've seen it. People take their dogs and they kind of poop on the side. And Bark Park, you walk in, the poop bags are there. You put it in your pocket, you walk in. Everything is so well maintained. And it would be wonderful. I would be so happy to see improvements of any sort made. And the walk around would be so helpful to so many people who go there, including me sometimes. I'm not getting any younger. So please keep that in mind. It means more to pet owners than you realize. There are a lot of us. Today, everybody's got dogs, big and small. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
Okay, so I will now move on to, unless there's anybody else from the in-person public here, I'll move on to the Zoom. We have some Zoom members that are in the audience. If you would like to say any comments now, you would just raise your hand on Zoom and then we would invite you in. So if there's anybody that would like to say any comments. Okay. Hi, Deborah. Can you hear? We can't see you and we can't hear you.
There, now can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Great. I'm sorry for the still image. It's easier for me to focus when I don't see myself on the screen.
Okay.
I just would like to say that it has been a really good thing, the first phase of this path being implemented as the previous two speakers have said. And so I do hope that you will grant us the assistance to make this rest of the path complete go around the park so that people can, who are having a challenge, stepping in that, can follow the path and yet walk their dog or get to their dog if the dog is on the other side of the park. It would just be sad to not get this project completed because of the lack of funding. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Thank you. Okay. Are there any other members of the audience on Zoom that would like to speak? I don't see any hands.
Nope.
Okay. So I'll just say one more time, if anybody would like to, just please raise your hand right now. Okay. So with that, with public comments, I will now take it back to the board. So I invite any of the board members, if they have any comments or questions for the applicant, if anybody would like to speak on the matter.
I went and visited the park twice during this period, and both of them, I visited was in the afternoon, one on a Sunday. I've never been to the dog park at East Long Meadow. So it's my first time visiting. But I'll give you a few observations. One was a Sunday afternoon, 1:30 to 2:30. I was there. Beautiful day, fall day. And one day during the week, afternoon, about the same time. I was surprised to see the most, there was 10 people on a Sunday afternoon. Average 7 dogs, all in a large park. The place was clean, didn't smell. The monitors were very great. The dogs were running in a pack. I wouldn't step in there if I had a dog, but I don't have a dog. But everybody seemed to enjoy it. There is a walkway along the south side that was phase 1 between the entrance from the park and the entrance by Big Wise parking lot. I didn't know there was an entrance there. I parked my car on the North Main Street parking lot from the park. And I walked down the trail, and I was surprised that I had to walk over the grass from that walking trail to get to the dog park, that there wasn't a walkway. And it was very difficult. I have 2 knees that I replaced, so it was difficult for me to walk to get to the dog park. So number one, I don't know why there wasn't a sidewalk or a walkway to the dog park, since it's on park land. I was surprised that the main entrance was on Big Wise parking lot. I didn't think that was allowed. That if you're gonna go to the dog park in the park, you'd have a walkway within the park to get to the dog park. That was a surprise to me. Observing the dogs use 50% or less of the large dog park area. The walkway, I thought, between the 2 gates was excellent. I don't know why there isn't benches on the south side of the fence versus the other side. Most people sat by that wall as you enter from the Big White parking lot. They didn't get up and walk around at all. So they just sat there and ran around, the dogs ran around the park, but less than 50% of the large park was being used. No small dogs ever showed up in the area. I thought there would be more dogs there on a Sunday afternoon, or people bring their dogs. I was surprised at the minimum number of people using it. Overall, though, it was clean. And the people that did use it did pick up after their dogs. So they did walk out in the mulch area and come back and threw it away in the cans and sat down by the wall, if you call it the wall. But I really don't see a need for a walkway around the perimeter of the large park at this point. I would rather have you come to us or come to me and say, hey, I like to put a walkway between the park walkway and the dog park. Because I'm not so sure that entrance from Big Y is really legit, to be honest with you. Even though it was installed that way, being the first timer going there, I didn't even know it was there. So I walked through the park for the first time on that side. I've never been over there. I've always been to the ball fields or the playground area. So that was a surprise to me. But I thought the monitors did an excellent job in keeping the dogs tame and stuff, but they use less than 50% of the area overall. So those were my observations of the 2 different times. Both of them were beautiful days in the afternoon. If you have a dog, it was very satisfying to know. And you're really not asking me to approve a sidewalk here. You're really asking me to expand the role of the dog park. The purpose of the dog park to me was to be able to bring in the dogs and let them roam around. It wasn't the human aspect. I have a whole park there that's the human aspect if you want to walk around. But now you're asking me to expand the use or the purpose of the dog park. I'm not so sure I have the authority to vote to expand the use or the purpose of the dog park. to human use versus the dogs. The purpose of the park was to support dogs, not having people walk around on a nice sidewalk within the perimeter of that dog park. I would rather have a walkway put in from the walk trail over to the dog park to spend the money there. That's my own opinion and my observations overall. But I think it satisfies the purpose of what you have for supporting the dogs. And overall, I thought the area was pretty decent. The leaves are falling, so it looks kind of messy and stuff, but that's fall. But overall, the place was, I thought, didn't smell, didn't have dog feces all over, was being managed by the monitor that was there on a Sunday afternoon. I thought keeping the dogs tame to the best they could. But I was surprised that no small dogs ever showed up. It was just large dogs, and they used less than 50% of the area. That's my observations.
So just not to, I'm gonna let the rest of the committee have their comments, but I think Lynn Booth is in the attendance. So she's another member, Lynn Booth of the Housing Authority. So if we want to invite her in. And Lynn, would you be able to put your screen on?
Hear me?
Yeah. I'm sorry, what?
I just asked if you could hear me.
Yes.
All right, good, thank you.
But we can't see her.
We can't see you though.
No, I don't have video, sorry.
Oh, that's okay. All right, so I will open up to the rest of the committee. Are there any other comments from the committee? Tom?
Tom OBrien. I'm a member of this committee. I'm also a member of the Department of Public Works and the Conservation Commission. I have 2 rescue dogs and a cat, so I am an animal lover. Like Jonathan, I ended up receiving a lot of emails because somebody gave out my personal email, and I got barraged with emails because I spoke out against it. So I've been following it since its inception, being a member of the DPW. And one of the issues I have is that in its inception, the organization was going to take care of the dog poop and the removal of the dog poop. Well, that ended about 5 years ago, and the town took that over. So the town incurs that cost now. Every year I go and I visit it at least once or twice a year. And to the best of my knowledge, the mulch in that dog park has never been changed out. They've just added to it. So it doesn't take too much of the stretch of the imagination to imagine what 12 years of mulch with urine and feces, even when you're trying to pick it up, what it's going to become. And it's in an environmentally sensitive area, being that close to Heritage Park, the pond. Not to mention that there are plans to redo Heritage Park in motion. And that dog park possibly will be moved. All right. So investing money at this point could be money that's just possibly wasted if in the bigger plans, the dog park does get moved. I listened to everybody's comments. I'm sensitive to it. Me personally, I think it could be better managed. I think that mulch should be pulled out of there every year and fresh mulch put in. Personally, I think that, dog owners should be better at policing their poop, because I've gone there many years and there's been some years where it wasn't policed very well. It's been, 12 years? Yeah, so I have strong opinions on that. I do recognize people enjoy it. They bring their dogs there, the dogs interact. I know that there's funds collected. I don't know where those funds go or what they're used for. I know that there has been dog fights there. I know that there's been people bitten and scratched there. And the town is liable. So for me personally, taking in all this information, I am not in favor of expanding this thing. Maybe when the new park is redesigned, and if it lands in the same place or lands somewhere else, all these things can be revisited, because promises that were made were not kept. And quite honestly, I don't think that the stewards have done the job they claim they have done, just by virtue of they haven't lived up to their obligation to take care of the poop. And the mulch condition, I'm gonna say it's 10 or 12 years of mulch that's been sitting there collecting urine and feces is the equivalent of a septic tank. And the thing's 200 feet from a body of water that could be a beautiful asset for this town. So I'll stop it down.
So I want to just give the opportunity also to our members, our committee members on Zoom. So do any of you have any thoughts or comments? I didn't want to skip over you guys. Hearing none. Phil.
Yeah, the other concern I have about putting a sidewalk in around the perimeter there is I'm a representative of the DPW. And the next thing the DPW doesn't need is what I've seen to some degree is, oh, we'd like to have that shoveled because we want to use it all year round. Our DPW doesn't need another task of sending somebody over there a day or two later to try to shovel off a frozen sidewalk that's in limited use to some degree from my standpoint. At this point in time, with everything that's going on in the town, like Tom says, that whole park is being revisited for maybe a major expansion, which I don't know where the dog park is going to fit into it, if at all. I'm not privileged to that, but I'm not really in favor of approving this because of that. Until those plans are decided upon and expanded to some degree and how it fits in and really cleaned up to the extent of how it's going to play a role within that park. I'm really not in favor of it. I'd rather, like I said, I'd rather see a sidewalk to wherever the dog park's going to be from within the park.
Can I respond, please? Can you hear me?
Phil, just hold on one moment. I just want to have Phil.
One other thing, that entrance to Big Y was not part of the plans. That was installed after the fact.
That's why it's the first time we're visiting. I was totally surprised that everybody was using the Big Y parking lot to entrance the park to the dog park. I couldn't believe that as a town resident. I just couldn't fathom why everybody wasn't going from the park into the dog park. But I had difficulty walking on the grass because of my condition as somebody who has some disabilities. So I'm not really in favor of approving this application at this point in time. I would revisit it afterwards with the whole big plans and see how it fits in. But at this point, I'm agreeing with Tom.
Is anybody else from the committee?
Yeah, I will make some comments. I too went over to see it. It was earlier in the morning, just to see what condition it was in and all. And it was in good order as far as I could see, and I thought it looked pretty good. There were no dogs there at that time or anything, so I could really look around. And I thought it was in excellent order, I mean, for what it's there for. I have a couple questions directed to you both gentlemen. I should know your name, John and Tom.
Yes.
Phil. Okay.
Tom was right.
The new park that's supposed to be, do you have any idea of when that's coming down the line? Or is it just in the planning stages?
As far as I know, it's in the planning stage.
Okay.
To some degree, it was mentioned to us on the DPW board
Okay,
by the superintendent, but not gone into detail
okay,
overall. So I would think between the recreation commission and the other officials of the town are looking at it. Phase wise, when it's gonna come out, unless you know, Tom, I don't know.
It's been in the works for a number of years and
okay,
different people have taken the helm and then dropped it. There is money currently allotted. But there is a large plan in place. It is under the recreation department. I don't know what the plan was for the dog park. I think it was to move it, but I can't speak to it because I don't have the plans in front of me anymore, don't remember.
just a couple more questions, just to give me a little more knowledge. 5 years ago, the DPW took over emptying every those containers or whatever.
Yeah, so 5 years ago, the organization was failing in its duties to have dog food.
Okay,
And they said they didn't have the money.
okay,
So at that time, the DPW took it over to a cost of the town.
yeah, okay. All right, that's, you answered perfectly. And on, in the big Y, I didn't realize there was an entrance there. I missed it. Is it concrete or is it just a pathway?
It's a form of tar or asphalt, but I'm not sure if it's really asphalt because it's part of the walkway inside the park that was described, but it's also to that entrance from Big Y that I didn't really know existed. And
I think that was done by the organization
Okay,
because the DPW had no knowledge of it and it just kind of happened.
okay. And another question on the mulch. Maybe somebody from the committee could tell us, what's the idea of leaving that mulch down so long, or you know what I mean? I think the last meeting they said that I don't know much about mulch, but it kind of goes into, the dirt or air or something. But it's a good point you made. That's what I want. If it's
As far as I know, they're bringing it in, fresh mulch, but
Yeah.
if you're not taking the old mulch out, it's.
Yeah.
At what point can we respond to these?
So I'm gonna have
comments?
Bill, once you're done with your thoughts, I'm gonna have Bill respond to.
Those are my main thoughts, you know what I mean? And the fact that, is it you, John?
Phil.
That said about the keeping it, or Phil, about keeping it, during the winter.
Yes.
That's those things the knowledge that both of you said, thank you for this. I would change my vote at this moment unless we get some more positive information.
All right, so Bill, I'm gonna let you've heard it. We've gotten a couple committee members to weigh in, so I will allow you to respond to some of the questions and comments. Bill, would you be able to turn your video on, if possible, back on?
Let's see.
Lower left, there you go.
Can you hear me too?
Yes.
Yeah.
We can hear you.
Yeah, a couple of things. One, when it came up about the expansion of the park, and I guess the gentleman from DPW said that a small section of the park was being used. One of the advantages of adding the walkway that we want to put in phase 2 was to expand the use of the park. Because when we put the walkway in, not only would it allow people to get over there, and dogs tend to follow where the people activity is as well. But we were also going to put 1 or 2 more benches over there as well. So the whole point of that was to make further use of the park by expanding the walkway and benches into that area. Because right now, you're right. I mean, a lot of that area is used for the dogs to go to the bathroom, because that's where nobody else is. So by expanding the use of that, they'll get more activity, and the people can go over there and the dogs can go over there as well. And as far as cleanup goes, that would be our responsibility. That's not DPW's responsibility. We would, and I do that even now. You know, I go twice a week and I blow off the paved walkway from phase 1. I keep that clear, and our intention is to keep phase 2 cleared ourselves. That would be our responsibility, to keep it clean of dirt and ice and whatever whatever it would need. We would maintain it, is what I'm saying. So that's not an issue. And as far as the poop goes, we have 2 30-gallon cans that's dedicated for nothing but pickup for dog poop. And we empty those things once or twice a week. So that's anywhere from 60 to 120 gallons of dog poop that's picked up. Yeah, we don't know how much is left there and how much is, that we can't see, or it's inadvertently left there. But that's how much we know. That's how much is picked up. And we didn't add to DPW's workload as far as that goes, because they were picking up from those 55-gallon drums that were already in existence there before we started using them. So when I went to talk to the superintendent at DPW, he said, just use those barrels and they're going to pick up as usual once or twice a week. And that's exactly what we've been doing for the past 10 years. So there hasn't been any change in that as far as work for DPW goes. And as far as the mulch goes, right, we initially started picking up the mulch, and then we realized that the mulch is disintegrating into the ground, and all we're doing is scooping up the dirt and basically the ground that's all been disintegrated. So that's the kind of, so we said, well, this doesn't make a lot of sense, because there wasn't anything to scoop up. It was just dust and dirt. So, so we just added more to the areas that we needed it, where the most activity was. So that's the only things I wanted to mention that, oh, and as far as the entrance goes, that big Y entrance, that was there. When we built the park, that opening was there. So I think that intention, I don't know whose intention it was, whether it was Big Y, because obviously it was used as an access from the parking lot through Heritage Park before the dog park was there. So that's why we put the entrance there, because we didn't ask anybody to put it there. It wasn't put in after the dog park, but it was there. So we said, well, it makes sense to have an entrance there for anybody that's going to use that, could go right to the dog park there. We do have the main entrance. The main entrance is actually where the signage is, over between the small dog and large dog area. That's actually the main entrance. And we didn't have the right to provide any walkway or pavement or anything else to go all the way to the parking lot over on North Main Street. But that is and always has been the intention of being the main entrance, because from that entrance, you can go right into the small dog or large dog area without walking around either one. The other one is just an access to the large dog area primarily, which is primarily used. Small dog area is not heavily used, because a lot of the people bring the small dogs into the large dog area, but it's a benefit to have that there for 2 reasons. One, for small dogs, obviously, and one, if there's an issue with some aggression or anything like that, you can actually put the dog in that area almost as a timeout if you needed to, if it wasn't being used. And there was mention of the town liability. We went through all that. Well, let me just say that it's not really related to what the subject is right here, right now. But the town does not have liability for dog bites or damage done by a dog. The state has provided the law indicating that the strict liability means that the dog owner is responsible for injuries provided or from their dog, or damage that a dog has made. The town is not liable for any of that. We are just there to provide information and to help out with questions. It's just like a baseball field or soccer field or anything else. But I just want to make that point that there's no legal liability for the town if there's any scratches. I mean, there was mention of scratches and bites. I don't think that's very accurate at all. You know, you may get scratched from playing with your dog. I mean, I got scratches all over me, but it's not from aggression. You know, there's very, very little of that there. And this is a very social atmosphere. And I think the expansion, if you want to call it an expansion of the sidewalk, will expand the use of the park and make it more user-friendly for people that have difficulty getting around. So I think the comments, a lot of the comments are unfounded and not realistic. I think it's a good asset to the town. And from what I've seen for the main project or the overall improvement of Heritage Park, from what I've been told, is going to be very minimal or no change to the dog park. We've already made that whole boundary is based on distance from wetlands. You know, we had to have it a certain distance from the wetlands, and that's what defined our perimeter. And we had to have a certain space open to the North Main Street. They wanted to leave space open for that for future activity. So that defined that corner. So that the park is defined by going through the planning board, conservation committee, and every other committee that was involved 10 years ago, including the police department and everybody else. So I don't see any changes that there's going to be to the dog park with the master plan for Heritage Park. Very little, if at all. So I just wanted to address those issues there. Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, so I'm gonna let the committee have some more time for comments, and then I want to bring it back. I have some of my comments of my own, and then I kind of want to see how the committee's feeling on options to move forward. So does anybody, our committee members on Zoom or committee members here that have any thoughts, comments that they'd like to add to the conversation?
Is that okay?
Sure, a quick comment, yes.
I just wanted to make a comment about the mulch. I was surprised to hear, you know, you say that the mulch was like rotten and everything. If you go there, just take your foot and kick it. It's all dirt underneath. It's never been an issue where there was a lot of mulch and it's deep and it's kind of gross or anything. I mean, if you go there, you look, there are a lot of dogs who dig. And a lot of them, you know, you run over and you stop them and they have the rake and the shovel and everything. You can push it all back. But it's dirt right under that top mulch. There's not a lot of mulch, I don't think. And I've seen a lot of dogs digging, including my own. And I don't think that's a big, I don't know, but I don't think that's an issue.
Can I make a comment?
Quick, yeah, keep it very brief.
It's an issue of access for people with disabilities or people with additional access. Walkway, that's number one. Number two, the bark that we use is pine. Pine has antiseptic properties. That's where pine salt comes from. As the pine bark disintegrates along with other organic material, it is a natural function. But there are antiseptic properties to the pine bark that we use, which is recommended for use in dog parks throughout the United States. That's why we use it.
Being a pharmacist, you're right. About the pine. Yeah, that's good. Good comment.
So I have a couple comments of my own. So like a few of the members here, I don't personally own a dog, but a family friend of mine does. So I took their dog along with my family to the Bark Park, like a few of the people here. You know, what I observed, I thought the walkway that is currently there was an added benefit. I went in through the big Y entrance. So when we had the first phase, and some of you were on the committee, some of you are new, and for those new in the public, This was a question I was curious about because, well, Big Y, of course, is, private business, and this is, town property. So how did this entrance come into effect? So I asked a few people. I never found a definitive answer. And I said, well, but is there any problem with it? And nobody told me that I spoke to that this was an issue. It just it was created. And, I don't remember 10 years ago when it was originally, when or 12 years ago or whatever, when the dog park was originally devised, but this was not an issue then. So, for those that are wondering, I haven't heard anything that could be different. Other people may have different comments or information. So please, correct me if I'm wrong. So I went into the dog park, I think it's decently, well kept. I think I was there. There was a dog and a lady leaving, and then there was a younger couple that came later. So the dog that we had played with that other dog, two little small dogs, but they were in the big area. It's a dog park, and I think it can, you can have messes and things, but overall, I think the condition is fairly well kept. And at the end of the day, in terms of excrement, I stepped in some when I was there. So that wasn't too fun. But at the end of the day, I think they do a fairly good job of it. And also some of these issues, dog fights, owners leaving feces or other bodily fluids of their dogs on the ground, that's it's the kind of personal responsibility of the respective dog owners, because I'm not familiar with a lot of dog parks. I've gotten more familiar with the subject area looking at this application, but I think there's most parks in the United States or in the Commonwealth where I don't think you're going to have somebody there all the time. So it's unfortunately one of those things that's destined to happen. And if the dog was instead on the baseball diamond on the other side of Heritage Park and they were walking their dog over there, then you might have some unruly dog owner that leaves poop for everybody to step in. So I think that could happen at the dog park, that could happen at the rest of Heritage Park, that could happen anywhere. That's happened in the front of my lawn in the past. So that can happen anywhere. In terms of the expansion, I have heard this as well. I think it would be great if there was an expansion. I think Heritage Park has a lot of potential. There's a lot of people that go to Heritage Park that use it for a variety of reasons. I think, I've heard of some plans. I've seen some designs on it. All of the improvements that are being discussed generally, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, do not basically move or affect that immediate area. Because if you look at Heritage Park, it's basically like right on the far edge of the park. It's not in the middle. It's not nearby the body of water on the pond at Heritage Park. So this is something that is way off to the side. This is something that has been used by a lot of people, especially evident by the messages that we received by a lot of the public, or that I received and some of the committee members received over the last couple of weeks. At the end of the day, community preservation funds are meant to use to preserve the community. So it can be a sidewalk, it can be a bench, it can be, if you want to create a soccer field, which is what some of the proposals are in the plan. I think the expansion would be great, but the question that I would ask and that I've been asking is, well, when is the expansion coming? And as someone that has served not for that long, but for a couple of years, I'd want to actually see a serious plan. And then how long does that take to get discussed and approved? And then eventually, the shovel hitting the ground. So, there can be a lot of plans. We can think about a lot of things, but until there's an actual plan, to me, that doesn't really enter my mind, again, unless there is, some significant movement that starts up. We're entering winter right now. Our community and the state and the nation is still battling its own battles with the pandemic. So when this expansion actually comes, and there's money to be considered, this is a price tag for an expansion that I've seen that is substantially more than the money that we're being debating on this one topic applicant this evening. This application is asking for $7,500 on top of the $4,500 that this committee approved fall of last year. I am in favor of it because I believe it just adds to the character into the quality of the dog park. But I don't dismiss the comments of the committee. And I think it's great that we're having this discussion because I want, different opinions, different views to come out because, and I think a lot of us have had the opportunity to take a look at the park. So with all that being said, now that kind of public comments, we've had the chance for the public to weigh in, for the committee members have the opportunity to weigh in. This is my plan for this application and then the other two applications that we're going to be discussing also this evening. I would like, a definitive decision either this evening. We also have a meeting in December, so one of those evenings, so that if only one of these projects is approved, or all three of the projects are approved, or even if none of them are approved, then depending on however the committee decides, so that I can go to the council, to the town council, which would be the definitive approvers of every application that we have here in front of us this evening, so that they can all be wrapped up and then can move to implementation for the middle of December. And that's also what I want to do with applications going forward, try to stick to maybe a 90-day time frame. This application is a little special. It was submitted in April 1. So it's pretty much up to the committee how they want to go. We can continue it to December. I believe it's December 2nd. That's the Thursday. Correct me if I'm wrong. Or we can vote on it this evening. And because we have Zoom members, I think it would be more advisable from my research since the last meeting that we do a roll call vote. So if we do decide to do that, we will have a roll call vote on that vote. So what is the pleasure of the board this evening? We can continue, we would vote to, if we're going to vote up or down, it would be vote in the affirmative and then yays or nays.
I would be in favor from what everything I heard in all the comments. I was always a dog owner. With our last dog, I'm 80, so I think it's 79. The last one went. We decided not to have a dog anymore, so which was up for debate in our household. But yeah, I would be in favor. When I see what the comments and the amount, absolutely, yeah, I think it would be a good thing. And as far as when is that plan going to come? It's going to be out there probably. But I'm just in favor and appreciate both of your comments because I wanted to know those particular things and they were handled perfectly. But I would give a vote for yes.
So is that in the form of a motion, or would you like to continue?
If anybody else has in a form of a motion, could we vote to approve this or not? Okay.
So that is a motion to approve the Bark Park Phase 2 project. Do I hear a second? Second. Okay, so we have a motion made and a second made on approving the Bark Park Phase 2 application for $7,500. So what I'm going to do is I am actually going to have our Zoom members. If you're able to hear us, I'm going to read off the screen here, the members that are attending via Zoom. So Ralph.
Hi.
Dan Reynolds.
Hi, I'm here.
And what's your vote?
Affirmative.
Lynn?
Yes.
Okay. So that is Phil?
No.
Bob?
Yes.
I'm a yes. Tony?
No.
Tom?
No.
No.
So that is 4. That is a 5-4 vote. So that goes on to the town council. Again, this is strictly a recommendation. That does not mean that it will definitively get approved, but it will go on to the town council. So the town council will have the opportunity to have their own comments, questions on this, but the project is recommended by the CPC this evening. So, thank you. So let's move on to our next agenda item. So the October 1st applications. These are the applications that came into us ahead of our October 1st submission deadline. So we are going to, I'm just going to invite, I see her in the audience. So Mr. Mack, if we can have Jeannie Quagletti and Chris from King, I forget the name of the records management business, representing King Records. So if we can have them come in this evening. Good evening, Jeannie.
How are you?
Good. I think, do I see here, do we have Chris? He's muted. Chris, you're muted and your screen is off. Chris, I don't know if you can hear us. Jeannie, I'll have.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, but we can't see you.
Yeah, I apologize. I'm doing this from my phone, but certainly I can see you guys and be happy to answer questions.
Okay, excellent. So Jeannie, I'll sort of have you kick things off. Just so Dan, we have a new member this evening, Dan Reynolds, and some of the members, this is only their second or third meeting. So I'll just have you update the committee, just kind of a quick recap of what is entailed in the project.
Sure.
And also to the public that is listening that may not have been at our last meeting.
Okay. So this project, I'm asking for a total of $35,000, and it's for preserving the records that are in the basement of the old town hall, And the consult, there's a 4-day consult that King Information Systems, the vendor that Chris is a representative, will come in and just take an analysis of what's down there, what we have down there. And that's quite a feat. If I appreciate that Tony coming into the office after the last meeting and Bob actually had the grand tour of the basement and saw what was down there. So once King Information Systems does that consult, they would actually come in, and I believe Chris said it was about 30 to 45 days of work where they will look at a records retention schedule that the state has and probably purge records right away that we can according to that retention schedule. They'll build appropriate shelving and storage for those records that are there. They'll create a database that will let us know when those records can be destroyed with permission from the state from some of those. I think it's a worthwhile project. We're gonna have everything down there inventoried, categorized, and keep on a schedule where we can keep the basement in order and protect these records for future. If you saw the pictures, there's records as new as last month and as old as a 1910 ledger that's thrown in a box and just sitting there. I have support from the planning director, from the town manager, and I have an official vote from the historical commission. It is deemed those records in the basement of historical value, which is a requirement that the Community Preservation Coalition asks for even before I came forward for you. And I feel this is a springboard project too, because once we have all that in place, we can move forward with imaging the documents that are down there. I know Bethany Yo, the planning director, is anxious to do this, but we don't even know what's down there yet. So this is a step that we need to do to go in that direction. And then I can apply for funds for appropriate ventilation. Right now there's a small dehumidifier that is draining into a set tub. And I don't think that's doing the trick. So I could actually have a ventilation system that's appropriate for the size and the age of the building. And that's the brief overview. I know you all had the application, so you've been able to review that. And I believe if there's any questions for me, I can answer them, or Chris can actually answer as a representative from the vendor that'll be actually doing the work.
Thank you, Jeannie. So I actually have a question for Chris. I just kind of wanted you to describe what you've done with other communities, kind of what the process that you would be kind of entailed, or some of the things you've done in the past for other communities that we would be expecting if this application is approved this evening.
Sure. You know, the the description that Jean has provided is really sort of the combination of, I think, comments that she's gotten from other communities, as well as some of the things that I provided to her before. But as she mentions, the first step in this is to have a full inventory, a full analysis of not only all the records that you have, but the spaces that you are retaining them in. Because I had an opportunity to watch the previous meeting, the October meeting, and it was not lost on me that you have some, let's say, recurring or possible, water situations that will happen on some of the wetter seasons. Certainly, that has everybody concerned, because it puts paper in a damp environment, and you can lose things to mold and bacteria. And so that a part of what we're looking to do is establish good locations, or as best as possible. We realize that the battle between people in municipal operations and paper in municipal operations means that often the records get relegated to some of the less attractive areas. But when properly stored and organized and cataloged, you can greatly reduce the amount of space that you use, and then be very smart about how you utilize what is available. But the key that Jean has talked about is the database program. It's a tracking software that allows you to record records that go into an archival state, and identify the address with a box number that contains any given record. And then as time passes, control those things either for internal research projects, public record requests, so that you're not, chasing a lot of time finding any of these records. The new laws are very specific about the sort of window of opportunity that you are given when you get a request, and if it is not satisfied in a certain amount of time, it can impose fines. But the ultimate goal of this platform is then for all of your records that you create now to run through their life cycle in a managed, secured, and properly located program that all of the town departments can utilize. So step one is that analysis, and then from the analysis comes a detailed report that itemizes all of the descriptions and details that I just discussed, and we'll also put an estimate in front of the community, that is the supplies, the equipment, and the labor necessary then to build that database specifically customized to what East Long Meadow has in that location. And that's to say, all of the basement that I've looked at, I heard referenced in the October meeting, an attic or some other spaces. I did not see those. So I'm not quite sure as to what is developing in some other areas, but certainly we would evaluate all of that, because then once you can centralize it and control it, now you have a better chance of making sure that the new things going in are properly located, and the old records, as they reach their term, can be properly removed. And just a slight note of correction from the October meeting, the state does require that records that are disposed are shredded. So I was talking a little bit about that with Jean, but I think that point is easy enough to control. There are a few local shred companies that you can establish a relationship with, and they can take care of those services for you.
Okay, thank you. So at this point, I will first open it up to the public, because we're having public comments on all these applications. I don't know if anybody either in person here or on Zoom from the public have any comments? Hearing none, I will bring it back to the board for questions and comments.
Can I make a motion?
Sure.
I make a motion, we approve the funds for the storage. Second.
All right.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded for the records and management preservation project. I have to find, does anybody have a copy of just how much money? I forget the exact price.
35,000.
35 even? Okay. So motion has been made to approve the records and management preservation project for $35,000. There's been a motion on the table. There's been a second. Any discussion?
Can I ask a question?
Sure, yes, Lynn.
All right. I know they're asking for 35,000. Is there, I don't have the application in front of me. Is there any money the town is putting in?
No.
So then my question is, when this person goes down there and cleans up the paperwork, I'm all for it, but whatever he shreds, that stuff that should be down there, is that eligible to be voted on? Because that's not really historical if it has to be destroyed.
Didn't understand that.
So I think I might understand the question in that records that are obviously created in a municipal operation, they are under specific compliance by both the town and the state. And so the large majority, there are a few records that you can destroy without state approval, but the large majority of records that a municipal operation creates requires a Secretary of State approval for destruction, for disposal. And that process is built into our database system so that as the database will identify for you that these 20 boxes out of the, let's say, 400 or so that you have in your basement have exceeded now their term and are ready for destruction, it creates the sub file that you would send with the RM1 request to the Secretary of State, and they would then email you back an approval, and then those boxes can be drawn and shred. So it's sort of not at the discretion of certainly me as the program creator and the platform creator, but is a part of the compliance from the state, and the state governs that and requires that form complete its cycle before you can dispose of any of those records.
I understand all that. My question was, because it's under historic, and if we're destroying something, it's not historic. So that was just my question. I understand going through everything, categorizing it, and putting it in for historic value, but it's the records that are being destroyed is just my concern about using funds for historic purposes is not to destroy something. So that's just my question.
So Jeannie, so basically the application is, this is going towards wholly the preservation, but there will be, you would reference this in the application, there is a maintenance. So would this be part of the maintenance that you would be requesting come out of your budget?
Yeah. I think Lynn's she's wondering how could it be historic if we're able to destroy records, but that's a state mandate that we get. And maybe another part of Lynn's question is who's going to pay for the shredding? Is that right, Lynn? Are you concerned about that too?
Yes, it's the shredding and even, So
the town hall has a large shredder that we could use, that any of the town departments can use, and we can use that up to, I've never used it before, but we could use that. And if there was an expense for the shredder, I'd have to have that come out of my budget, and then probably budget for that, you know, in the upcoming years. I don't know who paid for it in the past, actually, honestly.
So the town would be able to provide the resources for shredding,
Mhm.
state mandated shredding.
Yeah, they'd have to, yeah.
And it presently already takes.
And I don't think it's a large fee. Chris, do you have any idea of that, you know, what that would be? I don't think it's a large amount. There may be a large amount of records that need to be shredded right away because it really hasn't been kept track of up to now.
Right. And that was going to be my response. It's sort of hard to pinpoint a cost of shredding when you don't know how much there is, but certainly the first work that would be done would create the most records, because up to this point there have been, you know, whenever there's a gray area or a question as to what the term is on a record, every community just keeps it and covers their bases. But when we are able to, with, you know, our 40 years of expertise, really, you know, kind of surgically work through one of the basement areas, such as yours, and we have done this in now approaching 150 communities around the state. It is often that's the largest amount. The shred companies are, I would say, pretty reasonable in terms of the cost of then getting rid of, you know, what could be a few hundred boxes worth of records that are aged or appropriate for destruction. But just quickly, I also wanted to touch on the historical part of the question. That is, our review has three very specific lenses that we are looking at East Longmeadow's situation through, and one of them is the historic lens. Anything that we find that certainly gets at some of the origination of East Longmeadow or true areas of historical component, those would not, you know, be a part of any of that first surgical, you know, shred opportunity. It would be something that we would identify through Jeannie's office for maybe review by the historical commission, because we know that what you're looking at are three different things: the history, the compliance aspect, and the operational need of what records you retain. And so that's when certainly anything that comes up under a historical heading would be given, you know, kind of identified to Jean so that she could get them in front of any historical committee that wanted to see them.
So it sounds like to me, you know, from hearing Lynn's comments, I think what the application is really about is the preservation of the documents, but that the shredding aspect of the destruction of, you know, state mandated destruction of certain records that no longer need to be kept may not go along with be in line with the historical preservation aspect of the funding that's available. So I don't want to put words in your mouth, Jean, but it sounds like that's something that's already done, and that would just be able to be handled in-house, and that would not be resources from this money, if approved, would not be going towards shredding.
No.
Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to clear that up. So this is strictly preservation and making the storage space for those documents.
It's strictly for the one-time project, and the maintenance fee too that goes along with this. I think I explained in the other meeting that'd be my operating budget. That's not under the purview of the CPA funds. That'd be up to my department to budget for that every year.
Yeah, so that sounds like so there's the whole shredding aspect of what King would be offering would be within the purview of your department and the resources that are available there. Okay. All right, good. Does anybody have any other Last minute comments, questions, thoughts? Okay. So roll call, I will do this again through Zoom, so who I see on Zoom. So Ralph Cooley?
Aye.
Is that an aye?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Dan Reynolds?
Yes.
Lynn Booth?
Yes.
And then I'll go.
It's a yes.
Yes.
Yes. Tony's a yes.
Aye.
Tom's a yes. Elizabeth's a yes.
Boy,
That motion passes unanimously. Okay.
I just want to thank the committee. This is an important project for me, and it's going to be fantastic for the town moving forward. So thank you all. I appreciate it. And thank you.
And I too wanted to say thank you for your time.
So Jeannie, I think as we spoke about earlier in the day, my expectation is I don't think this might be enough time to bring it to the council this month. So perhaps I think December 14th and pair it together with the other application.
I think it's fantastic. Speaking as clerk of the council, I think it would make sense to bring all the CPC projects together at once for the town council. So they've got the CPC mindset when they look at all three projects.
Yeah. So that I think is a plan, and we can work on that so that it goes to the council.
Okay.
All right, through the chair.
Yes, Lynn.
All right, can I ask Jeannie, when she's done with this project, I'd love to have a tour.
I can't hear Lynn. I don't know what she's saying.
I said I would love to have a tour of the project when it's completed.
A tour.
A tour of the project when it's completed, Jeannie.
You can come now and get the before tour.
You gotta see the before story.
Thank you, Lynn.
Yep, no problem.
Thank you, Jeannie. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
All right, so next in our October 1st applications, we have the wall ball application. So I see in the audience Jeff Morneau. So if we can invite Jeff in now. Hi, Jeff, can you, we can, I think you have to mute or.
That's me.
Yep, there we go.
All right, great. Good evening, Jeff. So sort of, I think if you've already heard the last applicants, again, I kind of just want just a basic recap of the application. So I've distributed to the committee members that are here this evening, and also to the ones that are here via Zoom, the pictures of the proposed AstroTurf and a quote to that AstroTurf. So that's sort of an addendum to the original application. Everyone should have also gotten access to the original application. So this would be this would be for the AstroTurf aspect of the application. So with that, Jeff, I'll let you speak just give a quick recap of the project for those that may not have been here, and for the public that is hearing it for the first time.
Great. Thank you. And thank you for your time. So yeah, the project is really to build a sports wall at the high school, right outside the turf. The wall would be 39 feet wide, about 16 feet tall, and it would be used for a variety of things, for practicing a variety of sports, including primarily lacrosse, but also soccer, hockey, and it could even be used for baseball. I think since our last meeting, I distributed some pictures of what the wall would look like. That was designed by a former high school student that used the program to do it. I've gotten some updates on the turf quotes, which I now think, I don't have it in front of me, but it was somewhere in the range of $30,000. Since that time, there's also been another community nonprofit organization that's looking to get involved in the project, the J. Karen Foundation. J. Karen is somebody who passed away, a legend in lacrosse in the East Longmeadow community. And even as a result of putting this project together, they're looking to get involved and potentially help contribute towards the cost of the netting. And they've agreed to provide a scholarship for East Long Meadow High School students each year in the amount of between $500 and $1,000, one for a male and one for a female. So, you know, as the project has kind of moved along and gained momentum, more and more people have gotten involved. So I'm really happy. I'm really happy with the project and hope that the committee votes it through.
So Joe, I just had a quick question. So I had a chance to look at the quote, and then if looking at the original application, so you had an estimate of 20,000 on the original application. So are you still looking for just a 20, or
No, I'd be looking for I'd be looking for the up to amount of the turf. Obviously, as things progress, if there's a way that I can, you know, I've gotten a couple of quotes and that's the most reasonable one, but as the time progresses, I can't imagine it would be more than that. But I am looking for the up to amount on the cost of that turf. As I mentioned last time, when I submitted the application, I really wasn't sure what the cost of the turf was. And then on the day that I came in, I learned that it was actually going to be more than the 20. And as it turns out, it's probably closer to the 30. So in terms of a request, I would request, you know, the up to number, and I don't know how it works, but obviously any money not used for either for what I've asked in the application for community preservation to provide, which is the cost of the turf and the cost of the wall. Any additional costs would be covered through either private funding or other organizations in town. But I am looking for community preservation dollars to fund the wall, which I think was in the $26,000 range, but I'm not sure. I can't really remember. And then the turf.
So I know we've also had a discussion. So this will be, I've been in touch with the superintendent, I believe you have. So this will be going in front of the school committee. Again, being on school committee property, this would be something that would make sense for them to also weigh in on. So that'll be happening at some point this month.
Yeah, that I'm supposed to be on the agenda, or this project is supposed to be on the agenda for a vote or to get it before them, I think on November 15th, if I'm correct. So I would expect, you know, assuming, I don't want to assume, but if it goes through tonight and gets approved by school committee on the 15th, I think we'd be well on our way to getting the wall up and running for the spring for, you know, field hockey and lacrosse. It would be great.
So thank you. So I'm going to pass it to the public. If there's anybody in the public that has, we have people in person or on Zoom. If anybody would like to, they can raise their hand right now. Seeing none, I'll bring it back to the committee for questions and comments.
I have a question.
Yes, Lynn.
Sorry. Because if we have to vote before the school does, and if we vote yes and the school votes no, then what happens?
So yeah, I thought of this too. What we could do is, if we decide to hold a vote on it this evening, we can make in the vote it be contingent upon the approval of the school committee. So if the school committee does not end up recommending it, hypothetically, then our vote would basically be void because it would be required to also be approved by the school committee. Technically, it does not have to be approved by the school committee if you look at the rules, but this was a thought that I had because I felt it was important for the school committee to weigh in on it because it is school property. Even though it's governed by the town, I thought it was very appropriate and a very smart idea for them to approve, to recommend the funding so that if this project is recommended by us, then it can go to the council with not only the recommendation of us under this hypothetical scenario, but then also the approval of the school committee and the sign off of the school committee. So what we would do is if there is a vote that is, on the table, that would just have to be contingent upon that school committee vote, or we can decide to continue things and wait until December the 2nd, which is our next meeting, to weigh in on the project. And by that point, the school committee will have already weighed in. So.
All right, so then I have one other question. So I thought the school department was going to do the maintenance on it. That's why I thought it had to go to the school committee for them to vote on it, because they would have to maintain it. Is that true?
So the school committee would be, or the school department, I believe, Jeff, they've been open to doing maintenance on it if approved?
Yes, I think one of the committee members, I can't remember who. Yep, there he is, raised his hand. I forgot his name, but he was new. He raised a very important question, which I addressed about the maintenance of it. And I immediately addressed that with Kevin McGee, the athletic director of the school, who I assume ran it by the superintendent. And I think a letter was submitted to the committee from Kevin McGee, the athletic director, indicating that they would be responsible for the maintenance of the school. So I don't even think it would need to go as far as getting school committee approval. Kevin McGee has already, at least for purposes of the wall, committed to the maintenance.
To me, this is sort of just to be on the safe side and to make sure that the school committee is informed of, what's taking place, and if there are any, issues or questions that they have on the project in front of us. So, Phil.
Oh, I wanted to address whether we had the school committee approval yet, because I would be in favor of it on condition of school committee approving it, not the athletic director. The school committee controls school grounds. They give the directions to whatever management we have at the school. They have to take responsibility of maintenance and upkeep of a facility on their premises, as far as I'm concerned. So I'd be looking for that approval, or our approval on condition of the school committee approving this project for funding.
I'd second that, yeah.
I think it would be
at this point in time.
Yeah,
So
I think it would be something that's strongly recommended.
And I had another question. AstroTurf. Does the CPC have the authority to fund AstroTurf or not?
So,
because of the readings I've done, it seems to be a gray area, and I'm not sure if there's a CPA or CP Massachusetts CP director that advises us of what's funded and what's not funded. Because I was kind of confused in the sense that CPC money couldn't be used like on a football field, which is AstroTurf. But why would it be approved for this project, no matter the difference in size? So I was looking for some clarification on that particular item within this project overall.
So I believe I have not, there's not been an AstroTurf project that has come before this committee. I don't know definitively if there has been a CPC that has approved it. There is pretty broad discretion when it comes to that, and that could technically, that falls kind of under a recreational aspect. But again, that's something that I don't definitively know. But that is something we could look into and get an answer. We have an organization that we pay a small membership fee to each year that comes out of our administrative budget, where I can call them up. Actually, any of you can call them up and ask CPC related questions, either on an application. I oftentimes, I believe I sent them this application, and I forget exactly what they said, but there was no glaring issues that they saw from the application or anything.
But I wasn't sure when you sent them that application whether they were putting turf down versus AstroTurf, and we switched it to AstroTurf after the initial application.
I think if
Because
it's,
at first it was gonna be grass, I thought.
No, sorry, I don't want to chime in. No, I think you'll see right on the application, I think on the second page, it said turf and it said estimated $20,000. So that it hasn't changed from the beginning. It's always been a turf proposal.
Not, you mean AstroTurf?
Yeah, turf. Yep.
I believe it is covered.
Okay, that's all I'm looking for.
It's under, we use our.
It is
discretion.
here. Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Yep. You're right.
That was my only concern. I was looking for some clarification.
Well, while we're still on that turf, does this have to be like the football field, cooled when the temperature reaches above, say, 90?
No, I actually, I also addressed that with Kevin McGee, because I remember that you raised that question. And there used to be, he said that there used to be an MIAA rule, the Massachusetts Interscholastic Association rule, back in the day, that when it hit a certain temperature, whether it was 90 or 80, whatever the temperature was, that they had to cool the AstroTurf. But the rules have changed. I don't know how many years ago, but at least 3, maybe more than that. And now what happens when it gets too hot, according to MIAA, they can't even practice. So there's no practice on any fields when the temperature reaches whatever the degree used to be, where they'd have to cool the field. So the cooling of the field didn't have to do with kind of protecting the AstroTurf. It had to do with protecting the athletes or the student athletes, and they've gotten rid of that rule.
Doesn't help.
okay. So I see Ralph on Zoom here has his hand raised. Ralph, do you have any comments, questions?
Yeah, I have a question regarding the other 4 towns in Massachusetts that have the wall. Were they subsidized by CPC money?
I don't know the answer to that. Well, I shouldn't say that. I know the answer to some of them. I heard, or through rumor, I heard Long Meadows was done privately by 1 or 2 individuals that built the wall, and they did it all by themselves. And I did see in preparing the application here that at least one of them was done through a different type of nonprofit, like Friends for Lacrosse in X town. I don't know about the other towns, how they raised their money for the wall, but I can't answer that with regard to some of the other towns.
Thank you.
Any other board members? No.
Sure. I spent countless hours. There was a similar wall at Maple Shade School, and I spent countless hours of my youth at that wall playing soccer, lacrosse, you name it. And I was a teammate of Jay Karen, East Level Lacrosse, so I am 100% behind this.
Okay. Sure, that's all you did behind that.
So are there any other, if there are no any other comments from the committee, we can either have a vote on this, or if you'd like to continue, whatever the pleasure of the committee.
I'll make a motion to approve it on condition of approval of the school committee.
And for the price, so the original price adding.
The total price with the supplement in it.
With the supplement in it.
If
So
we're gonna
just,
fund the project.
so just so that we're clear, so that is, the original was 46,560, and you're adding
55,960, is that
56,560. Yeah.
something like
Not
that?
to exceed 60 or whatever.
Yeah,
The
that's,
numbers guy.
yeah, that's close enough. That's
Not to
fine.
exceed 60. or
So the motion is to approve the wall ball project for 56, newly amended for 56,560 even, and contingent upon the East Long Meadow School Committee's approval of the project. So that is a vote. Are there any other discussion on it? Hearing none. All right, we will go through roll call with this. So I'm going to start on the Zoom again. Ralph?
No.
Okay. Dan?
Yes.
Lynn?
Yes.
Phil?
Yes.
Yes.
I'm a yes.
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 Okay, and that is by a vote to 8-1. The committee has approved the wall ball project. So now that will go to, and we can talk, Jeff, ahead of it. So I am expecting that the projects the applications that have been approved this evening will be on the agenda, or I'm hoping to push for the agenda of December 14th for the town council. But in between that time, they will be, your project will be on the school committee's agenda on the 15th. So that is the plan. So now it will go to, we recommended it, it's not been finally approved. It will go to the town council now for final approval. So.
Great. I'd like to thank you all for your time and for listening and for reviewing the application, and hope to see you at the wall.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you.
All right, so new business. Well, before this evening, I thought that I had a new administrative assistant for us. I do not. The individual is unable to do the administrative work that I wanted to, but that's okay. So if somebody has another administrative person in mind, please let me know. And we can. It is a paid position. Paid underlined there, and it would just be involved meeting minutes. If these projects are approved by the town council, putting together award letters for the record, helping me with just very general office stuff. There's reports that have to get filed on an annual basis, the town annual report, the CP3 report. So there's a few things like that that would be involved in it, but it is a very light job, and as I think a lot of you attest, this is not a heavy duty committee. We don't need to meet constantly, and we don't constantly have issues coming at us. This is a fairly light committee. So if there's anybody in the public that has somebody in mind, or if the committee has anybody in mind, please, you all have my contact information.
Is it on the website? Like under town website?
I think we could, maybe we can get it. I don't think it is, but that might be a good idea.
Connect the person I'm thinking of with you if it's on the website.
Oh, good. Okay. That would be excellent. I will see if the town could maybe, because I know they have a job.
Because they don't have to apply for it.
Yeah, just somebody that's, good with note taking and, reading, writing, pretty, administrative.
I know somebody.
So, in terms of agenda for the next meeting, so we will meet December, what is that first Wednesday? I've been saying the 2nd this entire time, but I want to make sure this, the 2nd. So really that discussion, that meeting will be, now that these agenda items have been moved to the town council and voted on, just the master plan. So I think everybody's gotten a copy of it. It's pretty much in kind of a draft format. It's pretty much ready to go. So we'll just, we'll have the meeting next month. It'll be on that. I don't expect it to be that long, but that is really the only agenda item. And then hopefully if we do get an administrative assistant in mind at that point in time, then we could vote on that administrative assistant. And then I will also have meeting minutes for both October the 7th and for the meeting tonight. And then also an update on, well, actually, I shouldn't say that. The votes that will likely take place for the council won't happen until after the meeting. So really, that's all about it for the agenda for next meeting. Very light, much, probably far less time than this evening. So that'll just be it. So read up on the master plan, and that's all I have, unless anybody else has anything else.
Motion to close.
Motion to adjourn. Second. All right, we'll do a quick roll call. Ralph?
Aye.
Dan?
Aye.
Lynn?
Yes.
Phil?
Aye.
Aye. I'm an aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
All right, and we are now adjourned, so thank you, everyone, and have an excellent evening.